Yoda's like, cool beans. I'm sure he did say exactly that.
I want to see Yoda say cool beans.
Beans cool. And they each have different abilities.
Yeah, like double dash.
Yeah. There could be something like that. Let's just make Jedi 3 a kart racer.
Yeah.
I think we...
Not everything has to be explained.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to Last Week in Star Wars. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And George Lucas went to Comic-Con. The High Republic came to an end. Some fun stuff to talk about this episode. But first, I wanted to give a little life update because our family has grown.
Yay!
We don't usually talk about, like, the collectibles but I'm so excited about the Scuba Stev and Turgle and Marin action figures.
He's so little.
I was over the moon when they announced these at Celebration, and they came this past week, and I just love them so much. Look at these little weirdos.
The Turgle action figure is hilarious to me because it's a solid chunk of plastic.
It's a lot bigger than I thought.
Huge. Like, that is not to scale.
I mean, Turgle's kind of big in the game.
But he's not that tall, is he?
I can't, like, I think he probably is.
As tall as Marin?
I bet they made him to scale. He's just like this tall, lanky thing, and it just like, yeah, this chunk with spindly arms.
Chunk.
It's like the humans I used to draw as a 4-year-old. It's
potato
like,
people.
Yeah, big circle with a face on it and like arms and legs sticking out.
Yeah. His head is like, maybe it's the way that they made it because of such a big chunk of plastic, but his head is like a little bit soft.
Which I imagine Turgle's head probably is, so it's very realistic.
He's got soft brain,
Yeah.
smooth brain.
But moving into the news, there's really only one major story I wanted to talk about, and that was George Lucas going to Comic-Con. He went to the panel on Sunday that was all about the Narrative Art Museum that he's opening up. It broke records for the most attended Sunday panel at a San Diego Comic-Con ever.
Which no one is surprised, right?
I'm not surprised.
It's George Lucas. Like, he hasn't done a convention in who knows how long.
They could have just been like, it's the George Lucas panel, and he just like would sit there while everyone clapped for an hour, and he'd be like, okay, thanks.
Oh, well, I guess his last convention that he did was Orlando Celebration.
Yeah, he was at the 40th anniversary, which we're kind of like, I bet he'll be at Celebration 2027.
Come on. 50th anniversary.
50th anniversary of Star Wars.
He's going to be plugging away still with the museum.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that's why it's going to be in Los Angeles this year. So
yeah, they want people in that museum.
Yeah, I think they're going to promote the museum. I really hope George Lucas makes it to Celebration in a couple years.
Yeah, but the Comic-Con panel was really, really great. We were lucky to find a stream of it on YouTube.
Thank you to Skywalking Through Neverland. They recorded it and put most of it up.
So if you do want to watch the panel from Comic-Con, it is available to see on YouTube.
Yeah, which, very grateful. For those of us that could not make it out to Comic-Con, it was really nice to be able to catch up. I really loved the discussion between Queen Latifah, George Lucas, Guillermo del Toro, and Doug Chiang.
Queen Latifah was moderating. She did a great job. Apparently, she's close friends with George and his wife, which is nice.
I loved Guillermo throughout. He was great.
He was not holding back at all, and he had some really, really poignant things to say. I was just mesmerized by everything that came out of his mouth, including a couple of F-bombs.
Yeah, he was going hard against propaganda. He was going hard against AI, generative AI, and I was like, yes, I just love that dude. Whenever he talks about art or cinema or any media, physical media, like he's always on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just really, really smart when it comes to movie making and pop culture and art and like all of it. And he is a board member for the museum, and they talked a lot about like what narrative art is, which was helpful to explain because I was kind of confused as to what exactly that meant. You know, it was a lot about George's collection of like comic book art, and he talked about like how that stuff was fairly inexpensive back when he started his collection to buy. So that's what he started with. And it's just like a celebration of a lot of that kind of art.
They talked about how people used to look down on comic book art as like this lesser medium that real artists were gatekeeping. And like Doug Chiang, I think all three of them talked about just what art is. And it's like, as long as it sparks an emotional reaction, it's art. And they all had stuff to say about this, but something George said specifically, I think it resonated with me. I hope that it would resonate with a lot of Star Wars fans, because he was like talking about looking at paintings, and he's like, not every painting is going to make you feel a certain way or anything, but you just like, you look at it and you take it in, and then you move on to the next painting, and hopefully that one makes you feel something. And it just reminds me of Star Wars, and I hope that's the attitude we give off, is that not every Star Wars story makes me feel the way A New Hope did, but I'll still look at it and take it in. And, you know, if it's not for me, I'll set it aside and I'll go to the next painting. And I just love that George has that attitude towards art.
I also really enjoyed hearing from Doug Chiang's perspective. He was highly celebrated on this panel, and he's got his big book coming out with all of his illustrations and stuff in it. But he talked about how, like, despite people looking down on comic book type art or illustrations, he just like kept doing it and got better and better. He talked a lot about how storytelling plays into that kind of art, and that he wanted to start doing, like, telling stories by showing multiple panels of illustrations. And that's kind of like what led him into working with George Lucas.
And I loved hearing how George mentored him, and that Doug was very honest about being self-taught, honest about how when he first started working with George, he realized, like, oh, I don't know as much as I think I do. But George like helped shepherd him into narrative art and showing him how to tell a story with a single image or a single drawn object. And I really liked hearing Doug's perspective on all that.
Yeah. I cannot wait to go to this museum. It looks incredible.
It sounds great.
It looks like a theme
the building
park.
Also looks wild.
Like, it looks and feels like a theme park to me, because I'm just so excited to go and experience it. And just the architecture is really interesting. There's like, apparently there's no right angles. I don't know how solid and serious that statement is, but all the architecture is like curved and smooth and kind of wobbly.
They talked about, like the flow of it all. And there's a library in there. And some of the images are like just this beautiful, beautiful shelves of books. And it's a giant pane glass window that just lets in all the natural light. It looks so cool.
They're going to have a bunch of cool, like, true to size things in there too. They're going to have the N1 Starfighter, which I'm curious if they're going to have like the full one, including the huge pointy tail.
I bet they will.
And I'm like, how are they gonna
get that in there?
Where is it gonna go? They're gonna have General Grievous's wheel bike. I don't know if Grievous is actually gonna be on it. I would assume he is, but the wheel bike is just kind of random, but so cool, because like, that's such a cool concept.
Yeah, just obviously the Star Wars nerd in us will be thrilled to see all of the props and stuff. But yeah, just he's got Norman Rockwell paintings and all this art that he's collected, like something like 40,000 pieces that he's
Frida
collected.
Kahlo paintings.
And something that Guillermo said that I really liked is that when you're on this earth, you're either a guest or a host. And if you're a host, like, that's just a pathway to happiness, which makes me think about George talking about the light side of the Force, and that Darksiders are selfish and they hoard and they hold on to everything. But true happiness comes from giving and sharing, and that's what George has collected all this stuff, and he doesn't want to just have it anymore. He wants to share it.
And they, on top of that, they talked a lot about how they understand that they don't own any of the art. They technically do, but like you said, with the light side of the Force and everything, this idea of possession.
Mm-hmm.
They have such a good grasp on the idea of like art. Once art is created, you can temporarily own it, but like you are going to die one day and like that art is going to be passed on, and we need to celebrate that and like do everything we can to protect art once it exists, because then it's going to be kind of evergreen. Then it'll just like pass down, and multiple people throughout multiple lifetimes will own that art.
Well, speaking of narrative and comic book art, we can move into last week in canon. We got 2 comics, and one of them was the end of the High Republic Initiative, so I'm going to hold off on that one, and we'll start with Tides of Terror, issue 1. So we got a new series beginning. This is by George Mann, who is a High Republic author. What did you think of this issue?
It was fun. It introduced a lot kind of at the same time, and like a lot of the speech bubbles like introducing the actual like location where this all takes place. It was just like a lot of information. But aside from that, I really like the art. I really like the story so far. We're big Kit Fisto fans,
Yeah.
and we know one of our friends is like probably the biggest Kit Fisto fan. So I was excited to see him. And what's his Padawan's name?
Nadarveb.
Nadarveb. I was excited to see him again too, and he was like exactly how I thought he might be when I was thinking of his episode with Grievous in the Clone Wars. He's a little trigger happy.
Yeah. I liked seeing them together still in training mode. So this is before the Clone Wars, and basically Kit and Nadar and Mace Windu and Shaak Ti are sent to like this underwater research station. And I like the themes that they're setting up about the discussion between ecological preservation and historical preservation, that they're trying to look into these ruins and understand their society's history better. But in doing so, they're upsetting, I think they were called Zorfins, these big eel, like massive eels with giant teeth that they're obviously upset that people are moving into their territory. And so I think that's what the series is going to explore, is the weight of both of those things. Speaking of like preserving art and stuff.
These creatures have a habitat here, the place that they want to like really get into and explore. And so the fear is that they will disrupt these creatures' habitat and make them angry. And we all know what happens when creatures get angry.
Spoilers, they get angry, which I felt, I think that's a great theme to surround this story with, but also it's very just not only Star Wars. I kind of viewed this as a setup for Deep Blue Sea, but with lightsabers.
Yeah.
Because you're in this underwater station, and then of course an explosion happens. We don't know, I'm sure it was probably sabotage, but there's an explosion. People get trapped outside. The Zorfins come looking for snacks, and the Jedi are like, what do we do? And that's how the issue ends. So I'm excited for this idea. It feels very Poseidon adventure, but also I'm expecting these monsters to wreak some havoc. And yeah, I don't know why Deep Blue Sea really, maybe because Mace Windu's there. Samuel L. Jackson's in Deep Blue Sea too.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but ever since you mentioned that this morning, I am like, yeah, now I want to watch Deep Blue Sea.
It's so cheesy, but I've seen it several times.
And it makes me like want to read the comic again too.
I like Thomas Jane. He's a good character actor. I like that guy.
Should we do a Deep Blue Sea watch along?
Maybe we should.
For Patreon?
It's been forever since I've seen it.
It was Shark Week recently.
It's Shark Week. LL Cool J's in it. He has a bird. Stellan Skarsgård is in it.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Apparently there's a version where LL Cool J raps all of his lines.
Dude, Deep Blue Sea. Greatest movie ever made.
That's the Canadian version. 22 extra minutes, and then there's a bonus audio track where LL Cool J raps all his dialogue.
According to Tom in Parks and Recreation. So as that series began, we said goodbye to the High Republic for now. They keep teasing Phase more, but the Beacon, the finale, they've called it several things. The final issue story for the High Republic came out, And I'm feeling... I wanted to just take some time to talk about that issue, but also talk about the High Republic and celebrate it a bit.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about the issue?
I liked it. I haven't been great at following all the comics overall this time. For me, I'm not as attached to all of these specific characters as probably folks who have been reading every single comic this whole time. But since I've been keeping up with it recently, this was a really nice way to kind of like put a period at the end of a sentence and show that there are happy endings for Jedi, and like this was like one big happy ending.
Yeah, it definitely felt like the conclusion for all the comic characters, but they made sure to include a bunch of others. Basically, we go back to Dalna and they hold a feast, a big celebration while the galaxy heals. And it felt like Trials of the Jedi was the big epic conclusion, and this is like the falling action. Like, let's just take a moment to say goodbye and show a little bit of happiness for a bunch of these characters, including Nubs and Kai and Liss.
Yeah, they had the Young Jedi Adventures kids, and they didn't look as much like kids. Like, they were a little older, which was it's always nice to see art of that.
Yeah, I mean, they're aging up in the show, too. I feel like between seasons 1 and 2, Kai got a little taller.
Yeah, his hair changed a little bit.
Nubs looked about the same, but
yeah.
He'll hit puberty at some point. When we get to season 3, maybe they'll look even taller. But yeah, it was cool to just see them included, which makes sense because Kevin Scott wrote for Kai, I think specifically. He wrote 2 episodes so far of Young Jedi Adventures, but it was just nice to see things beginning to heal. But it also is important for showing Keeve Trennis leaving the Jedi Order, which we had like a goofy talk about that several weeks ago, where I was like, is this going to happen in the comics, or are they saving it for Phase More? I was unsure.
Yeah, we spent like a solid 10 minutes just really butting heads
talking in circles.
Talking at ourselves in circles, where you were like, I don't know, are they going to do it? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. I don't have the answers.
I am glad to see that they have shown why she left the Order. It's about what I expected. It's interesting that, like, I think going into the High Republic, I had these expectations of this is going to show why the Jedi Order starts to shift into what we see it's like in the prequel era. And they do that, but it wasn't as obvious as I thought. They handled it in a much more subtle way. And I think same thing with Keeve, is that there were definitely hints throughout the comics. I think especially in the Tempest Breaker audio drama, where she is starting to feel iffy about everything. But I was still expecting a much bigger moment for her to be like, this is wrong, or I don't know. But instead it was much more subtle.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It's just, I think it's a lesson in expectations for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked it. I think, she's been through so much, and she's been what was her title? Like Stormwall?
The Marshal of the Outer Rim kind of thing, yeah.
And she's been working really hard. They all have been. But I think once everything came to a point and everyone is like, okay, we can relax a little bit now, it probably all came rushing in for her. And especially like Yoda offers her a seat on the council.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh boy, I have to really think about this. And when she does start thinking, she's like, I need to step away because my head is like all mixed up.
And she does think for like 4 months. There's a time jump in there. So obviously she's put a lot of thought into it. But yeah, it's just going into these finales. I was like, I don't know, 4 years ago, I was thinking, at the end of this, they're probably all going to standardize their robes. And, some of that did happen. They're like, we're not going to make ornate lightsabers anymore. And but it was just far more subtle. And that's okay. But like, knowing that Keeve Trennis is going to leave the Jedi Order, and having known that since Dooku Jedi Lost, I was expecting I don't know, like this huge falling out. I'm glad that didn't happen because I really liked her ending with Skier.
Yeah. I was curious how they were going to wrap that up, specifically with Skier, because I did remember reading like those first couple of issues when they were both first introduced. And so there's a moment where Skier is kind of confused and he's like, "Oh, what's going on? Are you coming with us?" And she's like, cut her hair. She's got new clothes, and
Which they were like half Jedi, which I liked.
yeah. And she goes to give Skier her lightsaber, and she wants him to take it back to the temple. And it kind of seems like they part ways, but then it turns out Skier is going to stay there with her and be the
liaison.
Yeah, the Jedi liaison for that planet.
Mm-hmm. And I love that, like, she straight up calls him Dad.
Yeah.
And, like, I imagine that he went on the ship, told Yoda, hey, something like this, probably not these words, but like, hey, I gotta stay with my daughter. Mm-hmm. And Yoda's like, cool beans. I'm sure he did say exactly that.
I want to see Yoda say cool beans.
Beans cool. He says it out of order.
Beans, they are cool.
But it reminds me of Elzar and Avar telling him about their relationship and temptation of the Force, and him being like, all right, I mean, like, be careful. Don't become too attached, but that's fine. And like, just the explorations of love and attachment throughout the High Republic have been really interesting, especially for the Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, now that it's over, just wanted to talk about the High Republic as a whole and how much fun I had reading it over the past 4.5 years. I thought it was going to be up my alley when they were talking about it. Seemed like to lean really heavily into the fantasy side of space fantasy, which is my jam. Mm-hmm. So I'm just glad that it lived up. And no, it wasn't perfect, but I was excited to read every single new book as it was coming out. Even if one story left me going like, I was excited for the next one.
Yeah.
So I'm just really grateful for all the hard work that went into it.
Yeah, it's been really nice to have this avenue where people can really explore what it is to be a Jedi with all of these Jedi. I mean, there's so many characters to explore within the High Republic. There's literally someone for everyone to kind of get attached to. And at times that was kind of detrimental because it could be overwhelming. People were like, I don't know who this is. You got to go read this or this to like catch up. But, you know, if you put in the work, sometimes I would come across someone and I was like, oh, I skipped that book. I would just read the Wikipedia page and then it clicked for me. So it was just great to have so much storytelling over these years with these characters that I thought got wrapped up fairly well.
I do too.
For as big of a story that this was.
Yeah, I mean, endings are hard, and I was satisfied walking away from it. I just remember those early days where I was excited for something new outside of the Skywalker saga, and this was something that even Legends didn't explore this time period very much. And reading Light of the Jedi and reading The Rising Storm and being like, oh my god, like they're nailing it.
Yeah.
It just started off so strong and still stayed very strong. There were ups and downs, but I fell in love with so many of the characters that it just kept me pumped the whole time. And I'm gonna miss looking forward to, all right, we got another book in 5 months or whatever.
I remember some of the discussions that we've had over the years in book club for some of these High Republic books, and it has just been so satisfying and fulfilling as a Star Wars fan to like have those conversations about what is going through the mind of these Jedi at this time, because like most Star Wars fans love the idea of the Jedi, and we didn't really get to really dig in to their stories. The prequels gave us a ton of Jedi, and then it was like wartime. So we got stories about the Jedi within the Clone Wars, but that's all like wartime Jedi stuff. this is going back to when this is kind of like, what did they call it? The Knights of the Round Table era of the Jedi, where it was like kind of peaceful for the most part.
And then we see that shift as they realize like more and more, it's wartime.
Yeah.
And seeing what that looks like when the Jedi activate the Guardian protocols. And like there were a lot of fun lore drops in there too, which is always a great time.
And there's just like so many lessons to be learned throughout all of these books and comics. And yeah, all the Force stuff is really cool too. Like the Jedi stuff and the Force stuff, I feel like any Star Wars fan would really dig these stories because of that stuff alone. Like it just feels like the Force, I don't think it was necessarily like more powerful back then, but these Jedi just have a more solid connection with the Force itself.
Yeah, the way that they have these different interpretations, I think strengthens their use, where they are able to visualize the Force the way they want to. And I feel like maybe that gets a little more standardized by the time of the prequels, where they're just taught like, this is what the Force is. Where I really like thinking about Ram Jomaram, who feels closest to the Force when he's working as a mechanic and is able to just like visualize the pieces of a machine. I remember he's flying around and there's a Nile on a speeder bike, and he visualizes, he knows where the screw is on that machine that he needs to loosen. And because of that, he's able to visualize it and pull it out, and that speeder bike just starts to crumble. And I'm like, that's such a cool way to interact with the Force.
Yeah.
I like that he just has very unique gifts.
And the High Republic gave us so much too when it comes to just like fun new species.
Yeah.
There we have Orbelin, who is a giant jelly man blob.
Who we should bring up that in the Beacon he shows up and he's okay, because he was kind of giving me a scare. He was a fan favorite in The Rising Storm, and throughout the comics he keeps splitting himself so he can pilot more ships and be more helpful. But every time he does that, especially when one of the ships blows up, he's like losing mental capacity and losing a part of himself until he finally like just turns into a puddle. I mean,
relatable.
Right. But he is able to recover. Thank goodness.
Yeah. I thought a lot about Orbelin. I've thought a lot about Geode. You know, he's still such a mystery. And I love that for us because it gives us something to ponder and to wonder about. Not everything has to be explained.
Yeah, Geode was great. And just one of those things that I don't even know if that would work outside of the page. But it works on page, whether in the comic or in a book, brilliantly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about one of the comic frames with Geode and Court at that time spoke a language we couldn't understand.
Oh, yeah. And I remember seeing it written out for the first time on like a comic page, and I was like, what is that?
And just
hieroglyphics?
Having a conversation with him that we can't understand, and then Geode, who doesn't say anything, but it's clear that they're understanding each other.
Yeah.
And then it just ends with Court hugging Geode. I was like, this is delightful.
All of Geode's quote-unquote lines are kind of said or explained by other people when they're like, oh yeah, I agree with Geode, he said this.
Yeah, or Geode will give someone a skeptical look.
Yeah.
And you're like, what does that look like? I'm going to miss that.
I also want to give a special shout out to Mark Thompson. I've pretty much for all of the High Republic books that I read, I would read them and listen to the audiobook, and he did such a great job. It wasn't just him. There were a lot of other narrators for some of the books, but he did most of them, I think. And just like the quality of his ability to narrate different characters and do sound effects, and just it was so cool to be able to experience that.
So hard when he had to do Skier. Harder than anyone had to.
Oh yeah. Skier, I mean, he did Buryaga. All of Buryaga's lines were in Shriwook. And yeah, it was just incredible.
It's been a fun time. So thank you to all of the authors, all of the comic artists, everyone that worked on it, all the concept artists. Kevin Scott put out a really lovely letter on his newsletter and said, thank you, Ian McCaig, for the monsters.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a fun ride.
I gotta shout out the Nameless too, because they were
I love the Nameless.
insane.
Yeah.
Like, and the Dringear, because like these are just like very, very pulpy, almost like tales from the crypt type monsters that just make for incredible adversaries to the Jedi of this time.
The slow reveal of the Nameless over Phase 1 was one of my favorite things. And every time a Jedi would feel that presence, I would feel that sense of dread of like, what's going to happen. I loved that story.
The Nile were cool. Markion was a great villain. I mean, we could go on and on about like the specific stuff that we loved, but
I am going to do a video about like a full review and thank you that's actually written out and well presented. So
yeah,
that's coming.
I don't know when it's coming out, but we are getting another Art of High Republic book from Kristen Baver, which I'm really, really excited for.
Should cover phases 2 and 3. But let's move on to last week in fandom. I wanted to give a little update on something we've mentioned that we've been working on, like a tabletop role-playing game show, that right now what we're filming is very much a testing thing to see what's the best way to film this and record it, and how do I edit this many tracks of audio, which I've never had to do before, and do sound effect. Like there's a lot of work going into it, but we just filmed our 3rd session. That was a lot of fun. I'm having a great time as the GM.
Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error just because we've never tried to record or film anything like this before, so the logistics are still very much up in the air, but being able to play D&D in the world of Star Wars has been really fun.
Even if the show doesn't wind up working, I now know that I like GMing and will probably continue to do it. It's super fun. But yeah, the logistics of it all was kind of, I've wanted to do this for a long, long time and kept saying like, well, I need to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. And I was dragging my feet on that. And it was like, let's just start filming something and we'll figure it out as we go. And that's working a lot better. And I'm glad that we're doing that. But I did finish the first pass at an edit of the first session. So I'm making some progress. We're probably going to put those out on our Patreon at first, because I'd like to get some feedback. I wanted to give people an update, since we've talked about it a handful of times, that I am actively working on, when I have the free time, I'm editing, chipping away at it, and I'm going to try to put something out so people can see it.
The rule set that we are using for this is very, very light on rules, on math, on a lot of different stuff. Like, when you think of playing D&D, you might, if you've never played it, or if you have played it, you might think that there's a lot of downtime of like rolling and figuring out stats, and it's much more improv than that. It's mostly almost all storytelling, improvisation, and then the occasional, okay, roll this, figure out this.
I would say, yeah, it's improv guided by the dice.
Yeah.
The dice provide the twists and turns, and yeah, do you succeed or fail at what you're attempting to do? But yeah, it's a lot faster, which I like. I've listened to some real play podcasts before, and I'm more into the making jokes with each other, and I don't want this to get bogged down with math, because I know you don't want to do math. I don't want to do a bunch of math.
No,
so
I don't. I really don't.
We are trying to keep it like very fast and pulpy and very silly, which I'm happy with. Like, everyone at the table understands the assignment.
Yeah.
We've got one player who's kind of the straight person and is trying to keep things in line.
Yeah.
And everything else is going off the rails.
Oops. Going off the rails.
We just leave that. That's funny.
And if you're wondering, oh, how is this different from the 1,000 other like video podcast D&D sessions? Well, we are all huge Star Wars nerds, so there's a lot of fun specific Star Wars lore and character development being dropped.
Yeah. I've been having a lot of fun doing very specific things and mining deep stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just been a fun time. It's been a fun exercise regardless, and wanted to give people an update, and we'll put it out when it's ready.
Yeah.
But now we'll move on to last week in questions, and our first one comes from Jordan Blaney, who asks what Star Wars and non-Star Wars books we're reading right now. Well, no more High Republic until Phase More comes out.
I've still got some to catch up on, so well, actually, not really High Republic, but I will be reading Sanctuary soon. Yeah. That's really the next Star Wars book that I'm planning to read, is the Bad Batch one. Right now I'm reading, for non-Star Wars, I'm reading Project Hail Mary. I'm going very slowly at it, but I'm really, really enjoying it.
You have until March. You got plenty of time, I think, until the movie comes out.
Yeah.
I love that book.
And the audiobook is incredible, too. Like, the person doing the audiobook is doing a great job, so I'm really digging that.
I am currently reading The Crystal Crown, which is High Republic era, closer to the Acolyte than the publishing initiative, but that came out just this past week, which I should have mentioned that in Last Week in Canon, but since it just came out, even if I had read it, we wouldn't want to spoil it for anyone. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm about a third of the way through it. Taking my time a little bit, but I will be reading it, putting a review out, all that stuff as soon as I finish it. For non-Star Wars, before I had to take it's difficult for me to find time to read non-Star Wars books because so many come out. I wish I were just a faster reader, because I feel like the second I finish a Star Wars book, the next one's here. So I read Sanctuary, I'm reading Crystal Crown, The Last Order is on the way, I'm sure, so I've got to find another little gap where I can read something else. But I did recently read the first Dungeon Crawler Carl book that I really enjoyed.
That one sounded a lot of fun.
It's goofy, but also it's got a lot of heart. It had more heart than I thought it would. It's very like pop culture-y, a lot of D&D and video game references going on, but it's just a fun time. And there's like 7 of those, so...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've got plenty to catch up on.
One of these days you'll read ACOTAR.
I mean, we keep talking about all the boys getting together to do an ACOTAR book club, and I'm all for it.
I'm ready.
We've got some friends moving out here soon, and when they get here, maybe that's time to pull the trigger.
Mm.
JF asks if we have any hopes for Cal's story in the 3rd Jedi game, and that felt appropriate since we got some of these new action figures.
I just want him to be okay and to be happy. I don't want Marin to die. I don't want anything bad to happen to BD1.
I think we've joked that it should just be a farming sim on Tanalorr.
Yeah.
Can we just make it a cozy game? Nothing bad happens to any of these people. Everyone lives happily ever after.
I am curious, like, what the big villain or the big issue, the problem will be in the 3rd game.
Yeah, I guess one of my hopes is that it won't lean too heavily onto Darth Vader. I think that they've done a wonderful job so far of sprinkling him through. The end of Fallen Order, phenomenal. Mm-hmm. His appearance in Survivor was just right. Like, he didn't come in and just dominate the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't want Cal to have to be, like, chased by Vader or something the whole time.
I kind of am hoping for more Zepho stuff. I would love that, because I feel like that was like a really like generous place to mine some new fun Star Wars lore, and they kind of just like didn't really mention it much after the first game. So
yeah, first game, I think it was all meant to show how like an order can fall. Mm-hmm. The Jedi fell and were going through this ancient order that also lost its way and was nearly wiped out. So I think that was why we got Zepho back then. And I think people were expecting that it would continue on and we'd learn more about it. Maybe we will. I would not mind that. I thought the Zepho were very cool. Their tech was really cool. I guess I'm expecting we're going to be still learning about Tanalorr, trying to protect Tanalorr. Maybe it'll be about the hidden path and diving into that some more.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of hopes other than, like what you said, I want Cal and Marin to be happily ever after. I expect maybe he or they will be training Katya, Bode's daughter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about her. She'll
Yeah.
probably be in it. Was she force sensitive?
I can't remember if they alluded to that or not. I feel like they did, or I might just be expecting that because it's daughter of a Jedi. And...
Right. I mean, for me, most of my hopes are more about Marin. Because I think I'm just invested more so a little bit in her than Cal. If we want to talk about Marin, I think it would be cool for her to go like back to Dathomir and do something fun there. I want to be able to play as Marin.
Yes.
And I'm trying not to get my hopes up for that, but that would be great.
I think it would be rad if they had kind of like a Spider-Man 2, you could swap between Peter and Miles, and they each have different abilities.
Yeah, like Double Dash.
Yeah. There could be something like that. Let's just make Jedi 3 a kart racer.
Yeah.
I think we finally need a Star Wars kart racer that isn't pod racer. It's pod racer with blue shells. But yeah, I think that would be awesome if you could swap back and forth. Maybe not for the whole game, but
Sure.
a segment where you're playing as Marin with Night Sister magic would be so cool.
Be pretty cool. Maybe, give her own game, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I agree with, like, I've said this before, I'm not a big shipper, but I ship them so hard.
Yeah.
I love them. And I remember I kind of saved most of Marin's story in Fallen Order for the end, and immediately was like, she's great, and she's sad that she has no home, and I was like, come with us, and she's like, I'll come with you, and I was like, yay!
What was the book? Was it
Battle Scars.
Battle Scars. That was a great book if you want more storytelling within like Cal and Marin's relationship and stuff.
Well, a lot of people don't like, especially Cal and Marin shippers, don't like that Marin has this summer fling, as Sam Maggs puts it. Like, it was meant to be kind of a fling. I never had a problem with it. I thought Sam was very careful in leaving the door open for Cal and Marin.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, that happens in Survivor. And also, a lot of people were saying that this was, like, all Sam's doing. And she said the EA requested that storyline. So
I thought it was great because, first of all, like, Cal and Marin weren't, at that time, like, they weren't like a solid couple, right?
Right. I mean, people like me were shipping them, but
they weren't.
Right.
Like, people just think that way and then read that book and got mad. So don't do that. I thought it was a great way to show that, like, she was exploring things within herself and her sexuality and her relationships with other people, but also she explored a lot of, like, her inner trauma, being from Dathomir, the Night Sisters, and all that stuff. So in the end, she still decides to and chooses Cal. So I think that's all that matters.
I also really liked the exploration into Night Sister magic, where, and maybe this is something else the third game could touch on, but she basically learns to harness, it's probably not the same magic that she would use on Dathomir, because that is dark-sided, but she is able to learn to use a version of magic through, like, her love for her friends and stuff. And I'm like, this is light side magic. And I love that. It doesn't really make sense to me that magic could only be a dark side thing, because all of the Force has the light and the dark. And I do think magic is just a different illustration of the Force.
Yeah.
So, and I remember reading that and being like, this is very cool.
She talks about, like, looking into the flames, but not for too long because it'll burn you or something like that. Like, there was a metaphor there
Yeah.
where she's explaining how she could tap into Night Sister magic, but not let it consume her.
And she's like warning Cal of the same thing, which, yeah, I mean, to bring it back to game 3, he is going through it with the dark side. Like, he embraces it several times in Survivor. And by the way, I think it's brilliant gameplay wise that it makes the game easier. It makes it tempting. And there are no consequences to using it. They want you to feel powerful. But...
It's like a barbarian rage where, but you can choose to use it and you're just a more powerful player for a short time.
And there's a point where like Marin calms Cal down. And then from that point forward, I was trying to not use it, but then the story makes you use it at the end. And so like he is going on a very specific journey with the dark side. So I imagine we will continue to explore that. But those games, the way that they show the Force through gameplay, I've been impressed with it the whole time. And that I just remember laughing, hacking up stormtroopers and being like, this is fun, but also quicker, easier, more seductive. Like you're making the game easier by using the dark side. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Is the same I think I remember the person who did the story for the first 2,
Aaron Contreras.
Is he not coming back for the third one, or?
I'm not sure because he is working on Zero Company right now. So I don't know. He was the narrative lead, I believe was his title for the first 2. He might be doing Zero Company and Survivor. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and then Stig was not.
He left.
Coming back.
Yes.
What was his title?
He was maybe the game director.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are going to be some changes, but I have faith and hope that this trilogy will end strong because the first 2 have been great.
Yeah, as long as they get the story right and they're able to add a few fun, new, fresh elements to the gameplay, they don't really have to impress us too much, right? Because they can just take elements from the first 2 games, and it's not like a new game director would have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I hope.
But we'll see.
But that's it for last week in Star Wars. Next week, we've got Bad Batch Sanctuary, Codebreaker Issue 3, and Legacy of Vader Issue 7 to talk about. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Blue Sky.
And consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.